Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome. Just now realizing you guys didn't hear any of the music because my microphone was muted the whole time. So I'll be sure to play that perhaps during our commercial break. Kitty Cat is active and alert this evening. Hello, Kitty Cat. Say hello to the people. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump right into it, you guys. We are going to continue on with our review of the book Corporate Cults. We left off at chapter 3. And so now we are going to go ahead and pick up at chapter 4, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. Hopefully you guys have had an opportunity to get the book, those of you who want the book. Hopefully you've had a chance to get that and you're at least caught up to where we are now. If not, no worries. We're going to talk through it tonight. Always like to start my live streams off with a shout out to the patrons. And I will have a special note about Patreon at the top of our after show. So I do have something to say regarding Patreon, and I know what I'm finally going to use it for. When I first, opened it up, I made it very clear that there will be no difference between Patreon and YouTube. However, now there will be, and I will explain what that difference is going to be at the end of the show and at the start of the after show. But shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot. And if you're interested in becoming one, check out the link there on your screen, or you can go straight to the description box. It'll be there for you. So why don't we go ahead and jump right into the content, which is our review of this book here, Corporate Cults by Dave Arnott. So we've had some pretty in-depth discussion so far, and we're actually going to continue that trend with this book. Just by show of hands or just shout it out in the chat. If you do have the book, I'm just very curious how many of you are actually reading along. But this is the book. If you want to get caught up to where we are today, go check out the previous live streams. They will be there for you to kind of catch you up, but we're just going to kind of pick up where we left off and take off. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get right into it? First, I want to do some context setting and disclaimers for anyone who this may be your first time coming to the live stream, your first time hearing about all of this. Basically, we're analyzing this book because we recognize there's a major issue in the working world, basically. We want to fix it so we can make it better, largely because we need money. And that is the very short version of the general disclaimer that I give every time, because it's not just about bashing the corporation. You all know I believe in industry, I believe in business, and I do believe in capitalism to a degree. Obviously not to the abusive, exploitative degree, but I do believe in capitalism to a degree. So it's not about bashing business, it's about making business better. Because the reality is everyone is not going to be a business owner. So when I listened to the last live stream I did, the OK Boomer stream, and I was talking about the different options and pathways that people can take after school, I noticed that I didn't mention becoming an entrepreneur, starting your own business, anything like that. And it wasn't intentional. It just honestly, it slipped my mind. But I think when I was listening back and I realized that it slipped my mind because it's not all that realistic. So I try to give realistic solutions. Yes, anyone can start a business. Yes, anyone can become an entrepreneur, but it requires a certain skill set that if you don't have it, you will fail. And I would hate to just tell people, yeah, rush out and do this one thing. It's so easy, and it's really not. The truth of the matter is the majority of us will be employees for the duration of our life. My wish for you is that you do develop something on the side that does bring you money and pulls you in like a secondary income, passive income, and that you build that out and that you always have it like in your back pocket. And if you want to continue to be an employee with that, so be it. You know, my hope is that you always have a backup plan. But I try to kind of comb through the most common, most realistic scenarios for everyone because I want to set you up for success. I don't want to set you up for failure. But yes, I could see a naysayer being like, oh, well, if you hate it so much, why don't you just start your own business? Because that's not very realistic. And as we discussed in the last live stream, you have to have kind of a launch pad to get that going. So most people coming fresh out of high school aren't going to have a big enough launch pad to then start their own business unless they've already been exposed to it throughout their youth. So I digress. That's why we're doing this part. This is the context and disclaimer section that I decided to start including because I think it's important. A lot of people will come to a video for the first time and just start jumping to all kinds of conclusions. They don't understand the context and they never really get a disclaimer. So here they are. So we are simply trying to make business better. We're trying to bring it up to date, and we're trying to infuse humanity back into the working world because the majority of us will be employees. If everybody is a CEO, who's going to work the jobs? Who's going to actually help run your business if nobody will work for you? Somebody's got to work for you at some point in time to make your business go. So we're trying to set up that exchange in a way that doesn't exploit, degrade, humiliate, and take away the dignity of the employee. That's all. So with that in mind, why don't we go ahead and move in? We're now on chapter 4 that starts on page 62. And chapter 4 is called When Work Becomes a Family. So we're doing it a little different this time. This time I pulled the quotes and the page numbers are down there. It's really small, but hopefully you can still see it if you need it. But the page numbers are at the bottom of the page. So I didn't put up every single quote that I highlighted. I just pulled out the ones that I would have spoken about regardless. But there are a few others that I won't display, but I wanted to make sure these got seen. All right, let me just glance over to the chat, make sure everyone's doing okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Kitty Cat, they say hello. She always has to get her little voice on here every time. I might just give her her own show, Kitty ASMR, something like that. Anyway, all right. And just off the cuff, I see a comment that says entrepreneur does not mean success. Exactly. And a lot of us have to kind of sample business first. We have to kind of experience the business world to really understand either what works, what doesn't work, what we would do differently. So unless you are a really, really gifted, driven, focused, organized 17, 18-year-old, it's going to be kind of tough for you to launch your own business. Now, a lot of kids are making a lot of money using social media. They have platforms, they're influencers, they're getting paid. So a lot of them are finding avenues in that direction. But I would venture to say that happened by accident. It wasn't on purpose. So they just started posting stuff. People liked it. They got popular, got famous, and then eventually people started paying them for that fame, which is not a bad thing. That's great. But I think they stumbled upon that as opposed to sitting down and saying, this is what I'm going to do, and this is going to be the end result, which is more of a business plan. I'm happy for them. I hope they manage their money well, save it, and use it wisely, spend it wisely. But I think they stumbled into that versus really intending for that to happen. So that's why I don't put that out there as the first option. Anyway, as you all can see, I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. We already have. So here's the first quote that I pulled from this book. It's on page 62, chapter 4. It says, American corporations have taken over the meaning-making process for individuals that was once supplied by family and community. So the portion of this that I really want to talk about is that meaning-making portion. I really had to think about this for a long time, and it opened my eyes to the fact that this has very much happened to me, especially going into the workforce when I was younger. Like, I wanted my job to be the meaning in my life. Like, I wanted to have that meaning. Like, I wanted to want to go to work. And I still do, of course. But what I'm saying is, like, I had wrapped my identity in the meaning of what I was doing. And I drew all of my identity from what I was doing for work or what I would be doing in the future. So even if it was something that wasn't the end goal, in my mind, I'm like, this is perfect because this is going to lead to the next step. And then I'll do that for a little while, and then that'll lead to the next step. And it really did. But again, it was another one of those accidental things. It really wasn't on, it was like halfway planned, halfway accidental. At any rate, at every stage in the process, I'm trying to gain meaning from the work itself, to the point where, as I kind of progressed through my career, my personal life just completely evaporated because my entire focus was on work and making work happen. So I would choose to do or not do something based on how it would impact work, which a lot of people would say, well, that's the responsible thing to do. But if I'm choosing not to go out on a Friday or Saturday because I need to be home doing laundry, so my laundry will be done for work on Monday, that's where we start to kind of cut in and have a problem. Or I need to stay home and finish my work so I can continue on at work on Monday. Because if I don't do this work at home on Saturday, I'll be behind Monday. And the reason I'm behind is because of all of this corporate cult nonsense that goes on in the workplace. So that's when it starts to cut. That's why I'm so passionate about not wasting time at work, because that's what work time is for. It's there to get the work done. So when Friday or whenever your last day comes, you can stop. You can actually stop and go home, and you don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it until the next working day, whatever that working day is for you. So, when work starts to creep into your social life, your personal life. One time I was joking, I think with one of my bosses, and she was like, I hope you do something fun this weekend. And I was like, what is fun? I was like, fun? I've heard of this thing called fun. I've heard of it before. Fun, F-U-N, right? That's how you spell it, right? Yeah, what is that? What does that look like? Could you describe it to me? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. What is it? Fun. Fun. You know what's fun these days? Getting a nap. Fun. You know what's fun? Getting a day off. Fun. You know what's fun? Fire drills. Because we actually get to leave the building for a few hours and then go back if you didn't bring your keys with you. You brought your keys with you, just scoot on home. Just kidding. Fun. What is fun? And I meant it. Like, it was a joke, but I was so sincere because literally my mind was almost robotic towards work. Just work. Every minute of every day just about was geared towards work, to the point of like the timing of like when I wash my hair. Like, if I wash my hair on Wednesday, I'll need to wash it again like in 72 hours, and that puts us in the weekend. That's going to throw me off, blah, 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 blah. So I have to wait and wash it on Sunday, but my hair is going to smell weird from Friday to Thursday to Friday. Like everything was coordinated around work. Okay. And again, someone hearing this would say, well, that's the responsible thing to do. You're supposed to plan your life around work. And the whole point of this live stream and the whole point of this book is, no, you're not. Your life is still important. It always will be. Your life was important before that job. Your life will be important after that job. And your life is important during that job. Your life is still important. But what happens is these corporations have a very funny and very subtle way of taking over like your life's purpose and the whole meaning of your life. And I wanted to say this too. I should have done this in the context and disclaimer section, but there are some companies out there doing amazing things, making differences, changing lives, saving lives, building products that really help people and help the world and push us forward as a society. And shout out to those companies. You know what I mean? And if you love it, I meant to say this also, should have been in context and disclaimers. If you love your work, this is not really directed towards you. This series would be more so just for your awareness to make sure you don't ever turn your workplace into a cult. So if you love your work and your coworkers sincerely love their work, that's great. That's what we all want. That's the goal. That's actually the goal. But this is also to raise your awareness around still, have you sacrificed too much of yourself for the job, even though you love it, kind of situation. Just don't get lost, basically. Remember to be who you are still. You know what I mean? So if you have a great working situation, healthy working situation, we are happy for you and we're trying to get where you are. Goals. Those are our goals. Okay. But make sure you're not accidentally creating a cult for someone else. How do you know it's not just you and 3 other people who love it and everyone else is miserable? You see what I mean? So you want to make sure that you're not fostering this type of environment where you do work and where you love it. All right, let's move on. Let's see. All right, so here's our next quote from page 62. It says, the notion that organizations can hijack an existential vacuum in their employees' lives and harness it for corporate gain is a false seduction of the employee. Okay, so he mentioned a couple chapters back how a lot of people who have voids in their life and their soul, whatever, they have these voids inside of them. These types of organizations can fill them quickly. These are also the same type of people who tend to get involved with narcissists. So that's why this book kind of goes perfectly in line with the channel. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, we do have to ask, how is it we keep getting entangled with these people? And we've explored many different possibilities, realities, whatever. But one of those possibilities is that there's a vacuum, there's a hole, there's a void in your life or in your soul or your spirit. And if it's not filled with something else, an entity like this can come in and fill it for you. And he calls it an existential vacuum, meaning, that's about as high as it gets. So if you're having an existential crisis, if you have an existential vacuum, it's very easy to be taken in by something like this, by something that's bigger than you, seems to have this grand purpose, all these resources. People always wonder, how do these people get involved with cults? How? Like, how do you not see it? How do you not understand that this is a cult? Because something was missing. There was a major hole in their life. I think I mentioned this on the first live stream. Pretty sure it was the first live stream I did about this. I said, it's not that I don't have holes, is that I don't not need them to be filled by this. So like, I'll give you an example of one of the holes. Like for me, I feel like I have a major sleep deficit. And there's a million different reasons for that. I could go on and on. But I think my deficit is like a couple of years long. It's not like a couple of days or weeks. I think I'm running on a couple years deficit. I do sleep, but I don't think I've ever really slept comfortably, probably since I was a baby. And that has a lot to do with the way beds are designed. I'll just put it to you like this. I sleep the best on couches. And I think it's because I have something to lean up against. So when I'm on a couch, I feel like I'm kind of like in a pocket. And I feel like the couch is like holding me. And then I can finally like relax and kind of fall asleep. Versus when I'm in a bed, I feel like I'm like falling the whole time. Anyway, my point is, I feel like one of the holes in my life is like a sleep hole. So there's no way you as a corporation can fill that for me. So that's what I mean by, it's not that I don't have holes in my life. It's that I don't need them to be filled by this. The fix is not you. The fix is something else. You see what I mean? Now you can fill the financial hole as a company. You can assist with that. And you could do more for me filling that financial hole than you could ever do trying to be my everything. Don't try to be my everything as my employer. Be my employer. Fill my financial problem, and you'll see that you filled something, and then maybe that'll make you feel like you've actually done something for me or to me. But that's really the only hole that you can fill, that in healthcare. And other than that, you can't be my everything because we were never meant to be that important to each other. We were never meant to mean that much to each other. That's what friends and family and relationships are for outside of work. They are supposed to fill those gaps, not your company. And when the company tries, they tend to fail miserably. So that's kind of the point of this particular quote. Okay. All right, let's move on. So this is also on page 62. It says slaying dragons and working with beautiful people are exciting, but employees also want to be home. And this one made me laugh. And it also just had me shaking my head in agreement. Like, yes, yes, yes. Like having someone understand where you're coming from is one of the most amazing feelings in the world. And that's what I get when I read this book. I'm like, yes, I mean, you all are wonderful people, but I would like to go home at some point today. Like, we've been here since 8 a.m. You know, we've had lunch together. We've sat next to each other all day. We breathed in each other's air and each other's essences. You know what I mean? We bumped into each other at the coffee machine. You know, like it's time. Now it's time. Okay. It's 5:30 now. Like we're well beyond our shift. It's time. Okay. You know, like no one wants to be the first one to get up. You know what I mean? Like we got to let this go. We got to stop. So if you're a leader or a manager listening to this, make sure that you're not creating the type of environment where people are afraid to go home, even though their day is over, even though their work is done, their day is over, there are no emergencies, but they're afraid to leave because they're afraid they're going to be looked at as a slacker, even though they've been here literally all day. Y'all have got to stop. You got to create healthier environments for your employees. You guys are extremely competitive, right? You want to be number one, right? The only way to be number one is to make sure that your component parts and the things that fuel your organization are healthy and functional and happy. That's the only way. This other alternate way that you guys have been running for decades, it doesn't work. And that is indicative or indicated by the collapse and crumbling of companies that have been around forever. Like companies that never should have gone out of business have started to fold. And it's because you can only do so much to people for so long and you wear them out. And then the irony of that is they wear out their long-term employees and then they rarely bring in and foster the fresh blood so they can wear that out too. Like, I don't understand you narcissists. I don't. Like, you're not very strategic because like you're very nice either. But I would think that even though you're not very nice people, you would still be strategic enough to be like, well, we are really wearing out our long-term employees. We might need to bring in a fresh batch. But if we do to them what we did to our long-term employees, they'll leave really fast. So we need to figure out how to treat them in a way that will make them want to stay. So at least we can wear them out long-term like we did this crop. They don't even think like that. They think I'm going to do the same thing to the new crop that I did to the old crop. And the new crop is like, screw you. I can drive Uber for 4 weeks and find another job. And because of that right there, these long-term companies are crumbling. They are folding because they are determined to run that old program. They are determined to keep doing it the way that they've been doing it, even though it's proven itself not to work. So I just don't get it. But excuse me, at any rate, page 62, slaying dragons and working with beautiful people are exciting, and they are. But employees also want to be home. They really do want to be home. Okay, let's move on. Page 63. After multiple moves, so he's talking about the employee that moves often for their job. Says, after multiple moves, the corporation becomes the only family that vagabond employees know on a long-term basis. And really think about that, you know, because now personally, I'm quite for moving for a job if your community or city does not have a very good employment market. If you're able to move for a job and it's not going to severely and dramatically affect your life, you know what I mean? Like it's not going to ruin you basically. And it would put you in a better position, better city, better schools, better residents, things like that. I highly encourage it. But the catch of that, or the twist of that, is this quote right here, which is, after multiple moves, the corporation becomes the only family the vagabond employees know on a long-term basis. And it makes me think too, when I've worked for some really big corporations and met some people like that, it was always like the first or second thing they told me about themselves. Which, I mean, if you're meeting a new coworker for the first time, there's really not much else to talk about. But reflecting on it, I think it's very interesting that they'd be like, oh yeah, my name is Tom. And this is my third city with fill in the blank. I'm like, wow, you've moved 3 times. And usually they like kind of look down at the ground and put their hands on their hips, but they're trying to keep that positive attitude. And they're like, yep. My boys had to find a new soccer team here in town. So we spent the weekend doing that. And, we're all kind of in a hotel right now, but we're getting ready to close on the house, and everything is kind of in shipping, and kind of half of my stuff is halfway across the country. The other half is halfway here. So it's been a crazy week. And I'm like, wow. And you've been here every single day while this is all going on? He's like, yeah, yep. I've been here. My wife is great. She takes care of everything, and, she calls me if there's a problem or anything. So we're getting it done. And, they're saying it all through a smile or what have you, and as a younger employee in the company, I remember thinking, wow, they're really moving up. Like they're doing big things. Like the company has moved them 3 times. After being with the company for a while, what I learned was really happening was a lot of times the jobs in their particular city would get dissolved. And basically they were told, either you take this job in this new city, or, thank you so much for being a valued employee. Here's your severance package. So some people, for whatever reason, one reason or another, can't afford to stop working. So they have to uproot their whole entire family and move across the country just to keep their job. So as that all relates to this quote, those same people were usually very tightly knit with other employees in the organization. And it's for this very reason. Like when you keep uprooting someone from their community, eventually their job becomes their only community. And that's very dangerous because, as we were just saying, at any moment, they can just decide, hey, we don't actually need you anymore. I mean, we kind of do, but you would have to move 600 miles away from here. You cool with that? Great. We'll help you with moving. Now, my hat's off to the companies that will actually assist with relocation assistance. But a lot of them will not help. They'll basically say, you have a job waiting on you in this other city, but you have to get yourself there. And see you Monday. Or, obviously it wouldn't be that quick of a turnaround, but basically you move yourself here, you uproot yourself, and then we'll see you at work at, the next designated start day. Very cold, so I do shout out to the companies that assist with moving, but how fair is that to somebody who maybe has already given you 10 years of their life? Because these were long existing employees who've been working at a place for 20 years, 15 years, suddenly being told your position is being dissolved. We do have a job for you, but it's 300 miles away. Do you want it? You know what I mean? So that's why you can't invest your everything into these companies, because they're really not investing their everything into you. It's like they have one foot out the door, but you have both of your feet in the door. Why would you ever do that? Like, you should always have one foot out the door as well. We both are just standing here with one foot in, one foot out. You know what I mean? But they want you to put both feet in while they leave one foot out. And there is your imbalance. I would almost go on record as saying, almost, that if a corporation really puts both feet in regarding you, you should put both feet in regarding them. Now, that doesn't mean sell your soul, sacrifice your life, none of that. But that means that these people are showing you that they are committed, that they really mean it. They're devoted, like they don't engage in petty games, petty drama. They make intelligent decisions. They hire intelligent leaders if they even need them. They've examined their positions and said, hey, these roles right here don't even need bosses. So why hire people to be over them? For what reason? They don't need bosses. This group needs bosses for this reason. You see what I mean? So they've really taken the time to strategize their company, their product, service, you know what I mean? And their workforce, just little things like that that add up to a really high quality company that is fully committed to you. Do you see what I mean? You get your proper raises when they're due. You get bonuses if bonuses are available. They're not trying to drain every drop of blood out of you and then give you the little bit that's left to survive on. They're not trying to do that. But all too often, that is not the case. If you find a situation like that, commit and be very, very good to them if they're very, very good to you. But there always exists that possibility, always, that they could pull the plug on the whole thing. And that's why you give 99% maybe, but not 100, because at any moment they could just change their mind and do things different. And it's no longer like that. And that's how it's kind of different from healthy families, where nothing can break a healthy family. Nothing can tear apart a healthy family. Nothing. You know what I mean? So they try to pretend like they're this healthy family, but they're actually a severely dysfunctional one. And we'll get into all that. It says employees who are frustrated over not having a life outside work aren't very effective. So this is page 63. And actually, I'd like to read this whole paragraph to make it make sense. It says research seems to suggest that the extreme commitment level of corporate cult employees is not always best for the corporation. In one study, workers who spent less time at the office because they took advantage of family-friendly policies like maternity and paternity leave and job sharing were among the best performers and the least likely to have disciplinary problems. Employees who are frustrated over not having a life outside work aren't very effective. So in other words, all this commitment and loyalty and dedication tends to result in lower performance. Because at some point, even the most like drunk corporate cult member, and I mean drunk on Kool-Aid corporate cult member, starts to feel that like, God, I don't have a life at all. This is all that I do. I'm always here. I remember one time, it's kind of a long story, but kind of not. I'll just make it short. So I was working at this one job. And when I was hired, they told me specifically, we are trying to correct some bad habits that the trainers have developed over time. So here specifically is how we want to correct those habits. They are already aware. We have told them, we've shared it with them, we've shared it with their leaders. So don't feel bad enforcing this, because this is what we want you to do. This is part of your job. And I said, okay, fine. And it made sense to me what they were trying to do, because basically they were trying to reel these trainers in because they were very disorganized. They were sending in all kinds of different requests, willy-nilly, incomplete, last minute. So they were trying to get them to, put their requests in a timely manner, be more organized, be more detailed. And so part of that was a cutoff time. So they told me, if they don't have their request in by 4:30, you are not to accept it, and inform them that you will start processing it the following day, right? So 4:30 on this particular day came and went. 5 o'clock came, I gathered my things, and I headed on home. Well, I get a call around 5:15 from one of my peers who we did the same thing, but she left early because she came earlier. So she left around 4. I left at 5 because I lived closer, and I also came later. Anyway, none of that's important. What's important is she lived like an hour and a half away from the building, right? And she calls me and she was like, hey, I just got this request from this trainer, and I'm already halfway home. What are we going to do? And I said, we're going to work on it tomorrow, like we were told. And she was like, oh, but I feel so bad for them. And, they really need it. And I said, but they knew that they needed that 3 days ago. Why didn't they ask? Why didn't they submit the request? They knew that they needed it. They know the rules. These were very, very obstinate trainers. They were very, very obstinate. I would comment on what generation they were, but we won't go there because that seems to have ruffled some feathers, but extremely obstinate people. And I told my peer, I said, listen, you're halfway home. I said, I'm telling you right now that I'm not going to turn around and come back because first of all, it's past my, stopping time. But second of all, it's the principle. Even if I lived 5 minutes away, sure, I could dart over and go do it. But then that is how these people developed these bad habits in the first place, because somebody would always rush in to save them because they weren't following the rules or they didn't want to have procedure and process. So, I said, well, I'm not coming back up there. And she was like, I'm going to come back. I said, don't. I was using her name, but I was like, do not turn around. I said, that's 45 minutes. I said, you're going to turn around and drive 45 minutes back to the office to fulfill a request for someone who knows the rules. The rules have been more than made clear to them. You're going to drive 45 minutes back to fulfill that request and then turn around and go the full 90 back home. I said, don't do that. I said, please don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. She was like, I just feel so bad. And I was like, why do you feel bad? Why? I was like, they know the rules. Long story short, guys, she turned around. She came all the way back. She came all the way back to that building. She drove 45 minutes back to fulfill a request for someone who just did not want to follow the rules that weren't even ours. They were rules that the leadership team had put in place that had nothing to do with myself and my peer. Myself and my peer, we just were following the orders essentially, but they refused to follow them. And she gave 45, really 90. No, wait. Oh, come on. Okay. So she had already gone 45. So that was 45. So that one doesn't count because she was already going home. She came back 45, fulfilled the request, which probably took like 20 minutes because my math is weird. I'm not going to add that in. Turned around and drove the 45 she had already come. So that's 90. Then the additional 45, and I can't do math that well. What is that? I don't know. A long time. That puts her home at what, like 8 o'clock, close to 8 o'clock at night, something like that? Absolutely not. Not happening over here. It's not, and over time, the trainers came to not appreciate me because I actually was following the rules that, number one, I was hired and told to uphold, but because they just wanted someone who would do what they wanted to when they asked them to, like the last girl that was there that they ran off. And when they discovered I wasn't that girl, they didn't appreciate me very much anymore. But they appreciated the chick who turned around and drove 45 minutes. I'm sure they did. But I needed them to understand that that was never, ever going to happen. 45 minutes. And it's after, it was well after like her stopping time. Like it was well after her go home time. Anyway, that's all a response to this quote. Employees who are frustrated over not having a life outside work aren't very effective. So I don't know how she's doing today. I'm sure they're wearing her out though. All right, let's move on. Let me just glance at the comments. Hello, everyone. I'll be going through these a little later. Thanks for all your contributions. So this is page 63. Corporate cults are like dysfunctional families in which there are no boundaries between the individual member and the family. And we just got through having a very deep discussion about family boundaries, like a live stream or two ago. I think it's the last one I did. But yeah, the cults are going to be like your dysfunctional families. So the way that I used to describe it to people, I used to say, it's like living in a giant house with no walls. The only walls are on the bathroom, not even the bathroom. The only walls are on the toilets. Excuse me. The only walls are on the toilets, and that's it, really. But there's no walls in the kitchen. There's no walls in the living room. There's no walls in the dining room. There's certainly no walls for your bedroom. There's no walls anywhere in this giant house full of people. So, I think the beginning of this, if we were going to kind of trace back, like how did it start to get so bad in corporations, is when they started to eliminate offices and come out with this open floor plan situation. And really, honestly, people never really had offices other than managers and leaders and like supervisors and stuff. And some of them still do. But then, they went into cubicle city. um, I had a thought, but anyway, and now I can honestly say it is better to have a cubicle than no cubicle. It's better to have some type of cubby hole than no cubby hole. I'll tell you that much, because at least you still have your space. Like there is still some space carved out for you. But a lot of offices have taken on the format of like just long desks with dividers. And then some offices have no dividers at all. So literally you're just sitting facing your coworker every day. So picture like maybe a 4 foot long by 2 feet wide table where your computer is on it, your monitor is on it, your keyboard, your mouse. And then right next to you is the exact same thing. And then right across from you is the exact same thing. So do you remember when you were in school and they used to say, okay, everybody turn your desks towards each other in groups of 4, and you're going to work on this project together? Yeah, that has now carried over into corporate America. And they love it and they think it's cute and it's very photographable and it's very Instagrammable and it's super modern and very millennial. So this will all be part of my millennial discussion whenever I do that, but it's highly, highly, highly ineffective. It's ineffective and it's invasive for many reasons. And I'm not going to list out all the different reasons why, but the tearing down of walls within the organization, which they love. It's very corporate speak. There's no walls between us. There's no walls to stop collaboration. There's no walls to stop the creative flow of ideas. But then you also have like a messaging system, instant messenger. So that's kind of like the electronic version of no walls. So anyway, the problem with these open environments, for those of you who've never worked in one or who work in a different type of job that doesn't require you to be in an office all day, the issue is you don't get to decide what your brain is doing at any given moment. So if your coworker comes in and they want to be funny and ironic out loud to everybody all at once, guess what? Your brain is doing that now. Your brain is now attending to that for however long it lasts. And then you get to go back to work. Or if somebody decides that they want to speak to you in this very moment, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're working on, no matter what deadlines you have coming up, that's what your brain is now doing. Now your brain is talking to this person when you hadn't planned on that. But now you're having that conversation. It's going to last for however long it lasts. Now you're trying to get back to work. Impromptu meeting. So now an impromptu meeting has been called. Everyone stands up and goes and walks into a corner, which is weird. We might as well just all stand up at our desks, but here we go, off to the corner. So it's just a nonstop flow of activity that never really allows you to get deep into your work. So what a lot of people end up doing is going to like empty conference rooms. Some people will go out to their car. Recently, I heard people will go to their stairwell and do work, which I'm like, I can't believe I never thought of that. That is genius. Just go to your stairwell because nobody likes to take the stairs. Perfect. Brilliant. I feel bad now. I feel like I just told like a big secret, but I got it online. So they had already told everybody. But anyway, And you know what? Someone wanted me to talk about this a couple live streams ago. I forgot what the name was they were using for them, but they're basically pods. And like, so now open offices are purchasing, just picture like giant eggs, or picture like a giant phone booth looking thing where you can kind of like pull the door shut to have a private conversation. So it's kind of like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, can't you see everyone is struggling to get something that's very essential? We're not asking for, floating desks. We're just asking for the opportunity to get in our mind and be human and think and kind of hash things out mentally and go deep into thought regarding this problem or issue or project, to the point where people are hiding in stairwells just to get work done. Like, come on, guys. Like, we've got to know that that's not okay. You know what I mean? Like, why are we so intent on interfering with our employees' productivity? Why? Like, they just need to build like massive Pee-wee's playhouses all over the place and just pay people to come to them and just play in the playhouse all day. I think that would actually fulfill whatever need it is these people are trying to fulfill by having people come to work and not getting anything done. How much money are you wasting? You've got to be wasting an inordinate amount of money, like a crazy amount of money doing this. So anyway, part of the lack and loss of boundaries has a lot to do with the lack of loss of personal and private space. Okay. Let me see. Dysfunctional families, no boundaries between the individual member and the family. Okay, yeah. So, and I also kind of interpret that as like no boundaries. So in other words, like no secrets between us. So you tell me everything. So those of you who've had to work these kinds of jobs may know about the infamous one-on-one presentation, or not presentation, one-on-one meeting. And I can't stand them for a variety of reasons. I could do a whole video on them, but I would say this about them. I feel like this is part of what they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure there's no boundaries between yourself and the corporation. So a weekly check-in into your mind that truly serves no purpose other than just extracting information about you from you. And I say that because usually work is kept up to date in some other way. Email, Slack, people will just walk up to your desk, so you update them then. So there's no reason to like set aside time to just chat, because that's usually what it is. It's just a chat. And over time, you will find yourself getting too comfortable and sharing too much, because it's a meeting, it's a 30-minute meeting every week on the dot. And eventually there's nothing else to talk about the project. There's nothing else to talk about in regard to like personal development on the job. So eventually all that becomes left is just like personal, private stuff. And if you're not wary and cautious, you will become too comfortable and you'll find yourself being too honest. And that's where you rope and where you hang yourself. I wish, at least in the jobs that I had the option to opt out of the one-on-one. Like, hey, do you need to meet this week? No. Okay, great. I'll check in with you next week. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So now we are on page 63 and 64. So this quote carries over between the two pages. And it says, the dynamics of those relationships lack the natural barriers that people need in order to protect themselves. So then what I wrote in my book was, please don't protect yourself from me. And that's the overall vibe that I've gotten anytime I've tried to kind of like say, okay, that's too far for me. Like right there is going to be like my limit. That's my line right there. And this is where I start protecting myself. It's like anytime I've taken measures to protect myself, it's been met with such hostility. I can't even describe it to you. It's like, how dare you protect yourself from me? Please don't protect yourself from me, even though I'm dangerous. Please don't protect yourself from me. So I love the way this quote summarized it. The dynamics of those relationships lack the natural barriers that people need in order to protect themselves. Okay? Like one way I think of this also is when you're in these types of environments, there's a constant analysis going on about you, constantly. They're analyzing your hair, your face, your outfit, your mood, your walk, your purse. Oh, that's a different purse from yesterday. Like you're under constant scrutiny 24/7. It's very invasive. And I don't know if that's just my inner introvert. Extroverts may love that, but it's you're constantly being analyzed every day by people who really don't actually care about you truly, like how your healthy family does. I have to make that distinction because everyone doesn't come from a healthy family. So it's hard for me to just say family because family means a lot of different things to people. So I'll say healthy family. When you're looking after a child or anyone really, but I say child or elderly person because they're kind of they're not quite as able to help themselves often as people who are in the middle of their lives, but you're kind of scrutinizing them constantly, not to be mean. You're scrutinizing them for everything. Are they healthy? Is anything wrong? Do they need anything? Like you're constantly watching them, especially when like they're little babies. You know what I mean? You don't want them to hurt themselves. Are they hungry? What do they need right now? So you're constantly watching them is my point. Same with the very, very elderly. You don't want them to, get some sudden gust of motivation and go try to do something they're not supposed to, because they're not able. So you're under that watchful eye in the workplace, in the office. Like the example I gave a couple live streams ago about being gone from your desk for like longer than like 30 seconds. And it like triggers warning bells for them. Why? We're adults. We're salaried. Hourly makes sense to me to some degree, but hourly makes sense because you're paying that person by the hour. So you kind of want to make sure that your money is not being wasted. But at the same time, if they're producing results on time, either you don't need them for as long as you think you do, or maybe they need to go home early, or maybe you need to kind of look at the scope and parameters of your project and see, okay, this person is gone for their desk for an hour and a half, but somehow they're getting the work done. So maybe I don't need to hold them here for 8 hours. Maybe I only need them for 4 hours out of the day. It's like there's this giant fear to restructure life and restructure work. Somebody brought up solutions and like a comment. They're like, I just want the solutions. Like, how do we fix this? Solutions are coming, but I also feel like solutions are very much built into the content. But I think the way I'll wrap this whole series is by doing a live on what are the solutions, and I'll just put them out there very clearly. But I feel like they're built in. The solution is kind of do the opposite of this. Like, if you're watching people like a hawk, stop watching them like a hawk, or ask yourself, why is it I'm watching them like a hawk? Why do I feel the need to analyze every minute of every day and everything that they're doing? What am I afraid is going to happen? Anyway, I'll save all that for the solution stream, but solutions are coming. But like I also often tell people, you cannot solve a problem until you properly describe it, until you adequately lay it out, every piece. Because if we leave some pieces out, they will resurface later because we didn't address them the first time. So part of solving a problem is adequately hashing it out and describing it, and then we can talk solutions. Okay, let's move on. So this is going to be on page 64. It says the word dysfunctional describes a situation in which less powerful members of a family or other group suffer invisible emotional damage at the hands of more powerful members. So I thought this was a good quote to bring out because it's a reminder of the power dynamics that are at play in corporations. People will say things like, oh, well, you don't have to work there. And of course, you're going to be your narcissists. These are going to be your problem people, the people who are causing the problem, the people we're talking about. But often people have retorts that are so simple and they're very poorly thought out. So I like to try to address them because I know they're coming. Even if no one comments it, somebody might be thinking it. Oh, well, you could just go get a different job where they don't do that. Well, the problem is there's a power imbalance. So and that's kind of why I put so much responsibility on the corporation, because there is a deep power imbalance. This employee is nothing against the corporation. their funds and funding, their lawyers, attorneys, spin doctors, their property, that you are nothing against something that big. So you're already so much larger than me. Why do you feel the need to flex your power down to the smallest possible detail? You already won. Like you've already won. So like, anyway, the point of this quote is to just pull out the fact that what makes it so dysfunctional, go back to sleep. Oh, goodness gracious. What makes it so dysfunctional is that power imbalance. The employee is pretty helpless to tell you no for the most part. And when they do tell you no, or when they do push back, you, being the loving family member that you are, you threaten their very livelihood and lives when they have the nerve to talk back to you. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if I owned a company and I was doing something that my employees totally disagreed with, and they like kind of got like angry and kind of like not rude, but like, and not hostile. What am I trying to say? I guess, and not aggressive, but it's a word that means similar to that. If they got really, really, I guess, out of pocket, I don't know, trying to explain themselves and voice their opinion to me, I'm not going to march them out of the door. Like, that is insane to me. Like, and it's probably part of the reason that I'm not saying it right, is because I can't find the right word. But what I'm saying is, if my employee, my happy-go-lucky, always bright, always shining employee is suddenly upset by something I'm doing or have done, and they express that to me, that is not grounds for your dismissal. It's not. It's grounds for a conversation, because I'm like, wow, you're really passionate about this. Will you tell me more? Like, tell me more why this is upsetting you so much. Like, I thought I understood why. I thought I had explained why we were doing this, but maybe there's something I'm missing. Like, let's talk. Let's talk it out. I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay. You know what I mean? Like, now, if you just cuss me out and you call me all the major curse words, the $10, $5, and $2 curse word, I might have some problems with that, but it all depends on what I just did to you. Did I just cut your pay in half? Did I just take away your health insurance? Like, what did I just do to you to cause such a reaction? You see what I mean? Like, never forget your power. You never forget the power dynamic in these relationships. So let's talk about this really quick. So this quote is on page 64, and it says, in functional families, members are valued for being themselves, not for following the rules. I thought that was pretty profound. So think about it like this. If this is kind of hard to understand, for those of you who have pets, part of the reason you love your pets so much is because they are themselves pretty much no matter what. Yes, we can train our pets, especially dogs can be trained. Cats can be trained also. They're just a little bit more difficult to train, but they can be trained. But by and large, we love them because they are 100% themselves, no matter what is happening. And we love them for that. We wouldn't ever want that to change. Whenever we see our pets not being themselves, we get worried. We get concerned. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Do we need to go to the vet? Like, what's up? We get deeply concerned when our pets are not behaving like themselves, right? Because we love them for who they are. Every inch, all the weirdness, all the quirkiness, all of it. Everything, they make us laugh, they make us cry, everything. We love them for every piece of it. We wouldn't want to change 1 inch of it. But somehow when it comes to human beings, we don't afford human beings that exact same thing. We don't. When it comes to humans, we demand humans pretty much strip themselves of the very same thing we love our pets for and fall in line to what we believe they should be. And this especially happens in the corporate arena. Like, you are not loved for that quirkiness that makes you you. That quirkiness will get you marched out of the door. You are not loved for having a different mind. That different mind will get you marched out of the door. You're not loved for having a different opinion. That different opinion will get you marched out of the door. So they like to sell themselves as we are a family, we are a family, but functional families, healthy families actually value their family members for being themselves. So it's something to think about. All right, let's move on. So this is going to be also on page 64. So I thought this was interesting because this kind of talks again, once again, about how people end up in these situations. How do people end up joining cults and what have you? This is how. So it says in dysfunctionally controlled family, members feel that their privacy and independence are violated. And then there's some words in between, and it says those family traits take away the person from a child and cause her or him to be more vulnerable to the same techniques in a corporate cult as an adult. And I inserted in there permission to exist. When you take away the person, you're taking away their permission to exist. So those family traits take away the person from a child. Let me read it different. Those family traits take away the permission to exist from a child and cause her or him to be more vulnerable to the same techniques in a corporate cult as an adult. Okay. So this is the danger. So when we treat children like they're not whole people, totally individual and separate from you, and you teach them that who they are as a person and everything that makes them is not acceptable and they need to be your way, you're opening them up and setting them up for abusive relationships in the future, is what you're doing. Okay. All right, let's see here. Let's move on. Now we're on page 65. It says, let's assume that this average person, okay, so he was talking about how work fulfills like emotional needs. So he said, let's assume that this average person who needs 10 hugs a day exists. If they get 10 at work, how many do they need at home? Simple math right there, if I do say so myself. But it made me really think about excuse me, all the different families that have fallen apart because one spouse or the other worked too much. And it's almost like, outside looking in, and if you hadn't read something like this or heard something like this before, you would say, how could a person let such a beautiful family like that fall apart? He had such a loving wife. She had such a loving husband. How could he or she allow their family to fall apart? They had such beautiful children, such a beautiful home. You know what I mean? They had it all. How could they let this happen? Well, if they're the average person and the average person needs 10 hugs a day and they get all 10 hugs at work, they don't need any more from home. Like they're good. So like by the time they get home, they feel satisfied as a person. They feel whole and complete by the time that they get home. So there's no need to rush home when you feel full. There's no need to rush home if you've already had dinner at work. And I mean that literally and figuratively. Literally and figuratively. If you've already eaten at work, then you don't need to eat at home. And what happens is that compounds over time, that stacks up over time. And eventually, home has been completely deprived of your presence, but work is thriving. Work is great. This is why a lot of couples will divorce, and one spouse or the other ends up marrying someone from their job. It's not so much that that person was better. It's just that that's where they were. If that other spouse ever went to stay home with the kids, male or female, went to stay home with the children, the same thing would happen again. If the spouse is the center, if the working spouse was the center of the issue, it'll happen again. Like it'll repeat itself. The only way it won't repeat itself is if the new spouse continues to work with the ex-spouse. They have to keep working together because as soon as one falls away from that equation, work is still number one. Do you understand? So work will always be first. So even the new spouse will find themselves as spouse number two when they decide to stay home with the kids and their family falls apart. because work was always the one that, I did not put that in here. I don't even know where I saw that. Oh, you know what? It's coming up in another chapter. So I'm going to jump the gun. Oh, yeah, it's in chapter 6. But he starts to talk about love versus devotion. So he says the person loved their family, but they were devoted to work. And then my head went, poof. They loved their family, but they were devoted to work. So that's what spouse number 1 discovered, that husband or wife is totally devoted to work. They're not devoted to this family. So then they divorce. The spouse marries someone from work. Then the spouse number 2 stays home. And they end up getting divorced because what soon is discovered is that the devotion was to work. The love was for family. The devotion was to work. And what you devote yourself to is what will live. You can love something all day, but if you don't devote yourself to it, it will not grow. And that's what ends up happening when people end up in these corporate cults. All right, let's move on. So this is also page 65. He says, we should have the greatest number of distant relationships at work. And hearing that off the top of your head, you would be like, God, that sounds kind of awful. But if you think about it, these people are fleeting for the most part. Some of you will end up in jobs where you're there 10, 15, 20 years. Good for you. That's great job stability. But where were those people before those 20 years? Where will those people be after those 20 years? You see? So truly, they are fleeting relationships. It shouldn't be as personal as it is. It shouldn't be as close as it is. I saw a comment on a previous live stream that said, funny how they want us to spend all this time at work. Then you get in trouble when you start fraternizing with each other, like, dating and all that. And it's a true point. Like it's a sincere comment. Like, how can you tell people not to date each other when they're here with each other more than they are with their family? Like, we're humans. Like, humans eventually kind of start checking each other out. And like, they kind of start liking each other and taking to each other and developing crushes on each other. It happens. And then you would say, well, it's supposed to be a place of work. It's supposed to be professional. And I would say, exactly. Exactly. It's supposed to be a place of work. And it's supposed to be professional, meaning there's supposed to be a certain coldness to work. And I don't mean cold like callous and uncaring. I mean cold like, yeah, that's Bill from accounting. And that's pretty much all you know. Like, and that's pretty much it. Like, you shouldn't know Bill's favorite color. Why would you know that? You see what I mean? Like, and again, it seems and sounds cold. And you all can correct me, my other generations that came before me, but I feel like this is what work used to be. I feel like it used to be this way. Like, it used to be people got up, they went to work. Yeah, they knew their coworkers' names. They might know, like, if their coworker had kids, like, oh yeah, she's got a son and daughter, but that they didn't know their son or daughter's GPA. Do you see what I mean? Like, and I could be wrong. I don't know. I wasn't there. But in my mind, that's what it used to be. Like, there was a certain separation. That separation no longer exists between peers and coworkers. And that's probably why it's always so messy and people are always getting themselves into trouble. So I thought this was a cute little quote, page 66. It says, ants live to work and work to live. People do too when work becomes family in a corporate cult. So again, just like I was describing, like what had happened to me in the past, it was just like one thing was fueling the other. My life was just fueling work. That was fueling my life. That was fueling work. When really it should be work is fueling work and my life is kind of fueling my life. If that makes any sense at all. They shouldn't be blended, in other words. All right, let us keep going. This is also on page 66. Now, I thought this was very important, very, very important. It says, Families are lifespan groups, meaning that they are maintained throughout the life of the individual. Okay. So this kind of goes with exactly what we were talking about earlier. Your family your healthy family is supposed to be there for you for life and vice versa, right? You can't break it. Like there's nothing anyone could say or do to break up this family unit. Like we are a united front, and I love you from now until forever. And there's nothing that you could do to change the love that I have for you. And so when a corporation is calling themselves a family, they're essentially saying they are all of those things to you. I'm devoted to you for life. I will never leave your side. I will never abandon you. I'm there for you. I'll support you during your good times, and I'll support you during your bad times. If you need a helping hand, I'll lend it to you. I love you. Like I'm committed to you. This is it for me. Like I'm committed to you for life. And that is my word. Can you imagine if a corporate said that to you? Like, be serious. Like, you know full well that that's not what it is. It's like, I'm committed to you for as long as I feel like being committed to you. I'm not going to be with you for life. As a matter of fact, let's draw up some terms and conditions to outline our relationship to make sure that we know who's who and what's what, and the extent of my involvement in your life and vice versa. If you ever leave me, I'm cutting you off forever. And if someone else calls me asking me about you, I'm going to badmouth you to make sure that you don't end up with them, because that's the least I could do. If you don't want me, I'll make sure you don't have anyone else either. What else? I could go on and on, but you can't hold yourself out to be a family and then behave like actually, I'll say it like this. You cannot hold yourself out to be family and then behave like the enemy. So it makes people very uncomfortable not knowing which one you really are. Are you my friend or are you my foe? All right. But this is important to remember. Families are lifespan groups. That's a lifetime thing for those healthy families. That's lifetime. Your corporation can't promise you lifetime. And actually, is it on this page? It might be coming up, but he basically says on one of the pages coming up that one of the reasons, even if they're good people, is that they can't guarantee you employment. And they can't. So you can't promise me a lifetime because you don't even know if you'll be in business for a lifetime. You don't know if the market will change, suppliers will change. You don't know what will happen. So you can't promise me family because you can't promise me lifetime. Period. Until you can promise me lifetime, you can't promise me family. So don't call yourself my family. Maybe call yourself my friend. That might be a little bit more correct than referring to yourself as my corporate family. You're my corporate friends. Friendships come and go all the time. Page 67, it says corporate cults are dangerous because employees are given the false assurance by their corporation that they will always be taken care of. So again, like, let's use the NFL as a perfect example. So let's just suspend everything that's going on with them drama-wise, right? Let's just put that to the side. Let's just look at the setup of it, right? I know they hold themselves out as a family, the NFL family, all that, right? But if a player gets hurt, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, it's kind of like, oh, thanks for joining the family, but, ooh, that looks like it really hurt, bud. You think you're going to be able to play next year? No? Ever again? No? Well, good luck tending to that long-term injury. And from what I understand, and any sports fans in the room, please correct me. But from what I understand, once they no longer play for a team, like they don't have health insurance through them anymore, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. And obviously, well, correct me on this too, but they no longer get paid, right? Like they don't get paid after. Like once your contract ends or you get hurt, I know that they'll pay them through the season or through the contract. But once the contract ends, there's no like stipend after that, right? That it's over, right? So anyway, my point is family doesn't cut you off because you're no longer useful. Family will find a way to work around where you are in life because they love you. Do you see what I mean? Family doesn't just go, "Oh, you don't look very healthy. You all right? You okay?" Oh, well, listen, we're gonna have to go ahead and excommunicate you from the family because you're not healthy anymore. Wow, what happened to you? You were doing so good. But it looks like you're not doing so hot anymore. So we're going to excommunicate you. But thanks for joining the family. And you'd be like, but I'm blood. Like I was born into this family. Yeah, but you were born in when you were healthy. And you're like not healthy anymore. And we kind of need like healthy people. So sorry, but thanks for everything. You know what I mean? That's what it would be like if families behave like corporations. So these people, we shouldn't allow them to refer to themselves as family anymore. Or I should do this for fun in my next interview, like for a job that I realize I don't want, like halfway through. I should go, when they say, we're like a family here, I'm going to be like, oh, you're committed for life? I'm going to say, oh, you're committed. I can't even get it out. Oh, you're committed for life? Wow, I like that. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel secure. I just saw a comment. It says, right, PTE, no more money for you if you can't play. Okay, thank you. And so if I'm part of the NFL family, which is supposed to mean committed for life, then when I can't play anymore, well, surely they'll take care of me after I'm gone, right? Because I'm part of the family now, right? Wrong. Hope you saved your money, kid. Hope you didn't blow it all on material things because no health insurance, no paycheck. All right. So that is not a family. Family doesn't cut you off because you're no longer useful. Okay. Let's move on. This is going to be, so I jumped forward a few pages and this is going to go ahead and be on page 73. So this is switching gears a little bit. So he's talking about, I'm actually going to read the first half of this to make this make sense. It says, daycare facilities, laundry, banking, and athletic facilities. When considered alone, these are not bad things. They are all provided with the employee in mind. The purpose is to make the employee's life easier. They no longer need to stop by the daycare center, laundry, bank, or athletic club. With the convenience store on the USAA compound, employees don't even have to stop at the grocery store. So he's talking about the insurance company USAA. And then he says, these are all good things for the employee, but they are also good for the corporate cult because they effectively separate the employee from the community. When the employee's work becomes their community, they can't leave the organization because they would lose their community. So this was another deprogramming moment for me because if you told, I don't have children, but let's just pretend that I did. If you told me there was a daycare facility, a laundromat, a bank, a little gym, it's really the convenience store that would get a girl like me. If you want to get a girl like me, put like a little convenience store or like a little, one of the like nicer gas stations, one of the more upscale ones. Throw one of those on site and I'll never leave ever because I could just go get lost in there. But you give a girl like me that kind of stuff, I'm never going to leave your compound. And that's why I'm like, and that's why you get sucked into cults, girl. You see how it happens. And to me, prior to reading this book and really giving it some deep thought, my thought would be, God, that sounds amazing. Because typically during the day, I'm running so many different errands. Like on my lunch break, I can make a lot happen in 1 hour. A lot happen in 1 hour. So I'm always running errands. So if I can knock out more than half of my errands right there on the compound, oh, that sounds perfect to me. That sounds really ideal. What I didn't realize and what other people don't realize about that is that means you're never leaving the compound. You're not venturing out into greater society. You're not going to your local gas station, going to your local, I mean, you might have a laundry at home, washer, dryer, but you get what I mean. You're not going to your local laundromat, your local daycare. You're not fanning out and spreading out into the community anymore. You are completely insulated by your job. They're your work, your food, your errands, your banking, your laundry, your daycare, your gym. They're literally every part of your life. So, how could you have a life outside of that when your whole life, community, friends, and family are bundled and wrapped up into one organization? So, then here's the question: what happens if you ever lose that job? Then what happens to you? Who do you become then? Sure, you'll go find another bank and daycare and gym. You'll go find those things. But what I'm saying is, all at once, you would lose it all at once versus maybe, I've been going to that daycare for about a year. I don't like it. I'm going to switch daycares. You just lose everything all at once and everyone connected to it all at once. Do you see what I mean? So that is the danger in becoming too enmeshed with the corporations. And I'm sure they think they're doing a good thing. And to be honest, they are. Like my favorite job had a massive cafeteria and oh, oh man. Like there are days I'm like, how can I sneak back in there and get into that cafeteria? Maybe I'll just throw on like a disguise of some sort and maybe they won't recognize me, probably end up in jail. But oh, the cafeteria was amazing. So it's like, it's not that they're doing a bad thing. It's weird, but like I said on one of the other live streams, cults are supposed to be fun. If they weren't fun, you wouldn't go. So it's kind of a catch-22 because it's like, if they didn't offer anything, people might be like, God, my company kind of sucks. Unless, of course, they took that same money and just rolled it into a paycheck, then I'm sure nobody would care, But then they do offer those things, and it's like, wow, this is really awesome. My whole entire life is here now. So it's kind of like, what is the balance? So that's something that I don't really have a good answer to yet. What is the balance for that? How can you be good to your employees and also not accidentally create a corporate cult by mistake, not meaning to? So that's a good question that we should just hang out there and just, I guess, work through until we feel like we have a good answer. Or maybe he'll answer it. I haven't finished the book yet, so maybe he answers it later. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so this is on page 73. And he says that the few cult members who do escape typically must endure many hours of deprogramming to readjust back to society. So if you have ever had the courage to quit one of these corporate cults, or if you were lucky enough to get fired from a corporate cult, you probably had to spend a couple of weeks, if not maybe months, depending on how long you were there, kind of unraveling your mind. Basically pulling all the pieces apart, trying to put it back in order, trying to make sense of it all, trying to resolve old issues that may never be resolved because you can't talk to the person who caused them. You know what I mean? It's like you have post-traumatic stress disorder, basically. And you're trying to come back to reality and get a new grip on reality because you had lost your grip. You were literally losing it. You were losing your mind. Here's a symptom or a sign that you might be part of a corporate cult, and that if you ever quit, you'll have to deprogram. If you have literally worn your friends and family out talking about your job, like if they can't take it anymore. And I don't mean on a narcissistic, dominating the conversation, monologue, one track. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, in the course of normal conversation, you get started up and you start venting. And literally every time they talk to you and your job comes up, you start venting about it. And eventually, like your friends or whoever, family might be like, you just need to quit. You have to quit that job. You have to. Like you've stressed them out at this point. You're so stressed that you've stressed your friends and family out and they don't even work there. So that's a good sign that you're going to be a candidate for deprogramming. And you should deprogram, because if you don't deprogram and you just go into another job, you stand a very high chance of ending up in the exact same situation because you didn't sort out everything that happened to you before and take an inventory of what you did wrong and what you did right and what you can do different next time. Because keep in mind, there's always some responsibility to be shared, and there's always some responsibility to go around. So part of the responsibility I take for my previous roles is not knowing that I was a more task-driven person versus a people person. I didn't know that. I thought I was a people person because I'm very nice to people. I'm very friendly. I'm very sociable. But what I've learned about myself is I also really don't like play when it comes to work. I don't play. Like, I'm not here to play. Like, I'm here to work, and that's it. And that's kind of where the line gets drawn for me. So I take responsibility for accepting roles that were more people-oriented roles versus task-oriented roles. So going forward in the future, where I can make a better choice is by trying to identify and determine, if not by the job description alone, the interview should tell me whether or not these people are more interested in me as a person or more interested in my actual performance. And if it's me as a person, I'm going to have to pass on the job because that's not who I am. So that's what I mean by you have to figure out like who you are so you can make a better selection in the future. Will I make a perfect choice? Who knows? Hopefully, but at least I'll know I didn't make the same choice that I've been making before. So that's why you need that time to analyze it and think it through so you can come to those same types of conclusions. All right. Otherwise, you're just going to be talking to yourself, maybe for the rest of your life. Let's keep moving on. Let's see. Okay, I thought this was interesting. So it says, this is page 74, if you're purposely napping at work, consider the possibility that you are working too much. So let's talk about this. So they've come out recently with these nap pods that offices can purchase and put in the office. And of course, people definitely some opportunities to say, okay, boomer, as you read like people's comments regarding these nap pods, like on LinkedIn and stuff, because typically the comment that would generate that response would be something like, well, no wonder that they're not getting any work done at work. All they want to do is sleep. Okay, boomer. Well, if they're sleeping at work, how will they ever get any work done? Okay, boomer. Oh, well, your house is for sleeping. You're not supposed to come to work to sleep. Okay, boomer, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're starting to get into those critical thinking areas. And I'm just messing with the boomers. I'm just bringing it up. Just calm down, de-ruffle your feathers. I'm just teasing because that comes from young people too. I'm just teasing. But anyway, so these nap pods at work are there so people who are sleepy during the day can take a quick nap. Science and studies have shown that people who take a brief nap during the middle of the day are 10 times more productive than people who try to drink an energy drink or people who drink a coffee or something like that to override the exhaustion that hits around 12 or 1. Science has proven that if you take a quick nap, the benefits from that actually far outweigh any caffeine you could ever inject into your veins. So in addition to that, there are other cultures in the world that intentionally take naps in the middle of the day. And I believe they're called siestas. I could be wrong. In addition to that, boomer, just kidding. In addition to that, some of the most famous people and the most brilliant people on planet Earth scheduled a nap for themselves every single day. And I can't remember their names off the cuff, but they used to have, I think the quote was like, this person used, I think it was in one of the authors, used to wake up from sleep, stay awake till about 12 or 1, and then they would have what they called their second sleep for the day. And then after they had risen from their second sleep, then they were good to go. So I bring all that up to say that people sleeping in the middle of the day is not abnormal. It would probably actually be very healthy for us. But that is not the point of this quote or what I was even going to talk about. That was just me being triggered and responding to, okay, boomer. But if you're purposely napping at work, consider the possibility that you're working too much. So for the companies that are trying to be forward thinking and innovative and say, hey, if you need to take a nap, we have nap pods. Go upstairs, take a nap. What that's basically saying, whether we realize it or not, is if you're sleepy, sleep here and then come back and go back to work. Not if you're sleepy, go home. Power naps, thank you. Power naps are what they're called. So they're not telling us, hey, if you're tired, get on out of here, go home. That's not what they're telling us. They're telling us, if you're sleepy, you can sleep here, go upstairs and take your little nap, and then come right back down here and get right back to work. And that's the issue. So if you're purposely napping at work, you're probably working too much also. So you guys really have to think Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever, plus commute, plus get ready time. Your sleep is probably being impacted unless you go to bed every day at the same time and you wake up at the same time every night. That's probably the only way your sleep is not being affected. But chances are you're trying to cram your life into those few hours every night, and your sleep is probably being disrupted. So if you're sleepy at work, it's probably because you are working a little bit too much. One of the solutions that we're going to talk about in the solutions live stream is the 4-hour work week that's being talked about now. Now, it's been around for a while, the concept. There's even a book, not 4-hour, 4-day, the 4-day work week. There is a book called 4-hour work week, but what I'm talking about is 4-day work week, and give us 3-day weekends. And of course, people are twisting and all uncomfortable over the concept of one extra day for people to just be with their family, handle their business, excuse me, run errands, appointments. You know what I mean? Like, haven't we reached a place now where technology, for better or for worse, has given us some more free time back? That's why so many people go to work and pretend to work all day, because they really don't need to be there 8 hours. They really need to be there like 3. And then the other 5, they should be allowed to go do whatever they want. And the thing is, from a business standpoint, people would say, well, if I only need them for 3 hours a day, well, I'm going to cut their pay. Well, I mean, that kind of makes sense to me, but at the same time, you giving them their time back probably trades off. So you giving them more time in their life back, that's less gas, less clothes, less food, like for lunch. So there's a trade-off there. So you might have to pay them less in salary. I'm sure they would take it. Some people can't afford to lose one dime, and that's fair. But others, I'm sure they would take it. It's like, okay, you want to pay me $1,000 less, but I can work, or excuse me, I get one extra day off every week. I'll take it. You see what I mean? So just a thought, something to think about. Kitty cat. Do you think mommy's working too much? No? Okay. All right. It says, I thought this was interesting. This is page 74. In corporate cults, employees are taught at work how to function at home. So think about all the employee resource programs that are talking about work-life balance and how to eat better and how to get more exercise. And actually, some companies monitor. Let me rephrase. Hey, Ronald, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. You've missed a lot, but that's okay. You can always play it back, and we haven't done after show yet, so you're good. Thank you for the super chat. So we know all the programs that basically tell you how to live your life, and they're very well-intentioned and well-meaning. And some of them you can actually sign up to have them monitor, like your Fitbit or your Apple Watch or your smartwatch that monitors like your heart rate and your sleeping patterns. And you can upload that into the system, and then they can print you out like a customized, biometric type guidance plan for you to live your best life. Like, it's too much, y'all. Too much. It's too much. Like, it's great. Like, It's awesome that they care, but understand that they care because when you're sick, you can't work. And I'm sure they care too. Like, I'm sure they do care about you to some degree, some of them. But really, like, one of the main reasons they're concerned about employee obesity is because obesity leads to other illnesses that ultimately impact your ability to work. So it's not that they care how many steps you're getting every day, it's that they've done the math, and mathematically they know that if they don't get you moving, you eventually will be someone who's still working for them, but on like short-term disability or long-term disability because of your health condition. But the irony in that is that you're probably in that state of health because of them. And I would never put 100% responsibility on a company for how we take care of ourselves. But we have to be real. The stress of some jobs, the mental stress of dealing with a narcissistic boss, the fact that some corporations really don't like it when you leave your desk. They take issue with that. You know, where did you go? Why were you gone for so long? And you're not an hourly employee and nothing is due. You see what I mean? So dealing with that conflict mentally. So there's so much that, you know, a person is dealing with in these types of environments. It's no wonder that their health is failing them. So then they supplement that with all these little programs. Anyway, no, you did not miss any curse words. I didn't curse tonight. I've been very good, very well behaved. I have to be. We'll get into that a little bit in after show. All right, let's see where we are, and then we'll take a quick commercial break. And oh no, we got a little ways to go, y'all, I think. So this was funny to me. This is on page 76. It says, you will be funny and you will conform to the culture of this organization. You were allowed to be yourself as long as yourself fits within the narrowly defined culture of the organization. Exactly. As long as yourself mirrors what everyone else is doing, you are fine. But, and you will be funny every day and happy to be here and grateful and thankful every day. Unwavering dedication and loyalty is what you will present. And you will conform to the culture of this organization. So I thought that was funny. And it reminds me, I feel like I did a video similar to this. I don't know. At this point, they're all starting to blend together in my head a little bit, but this comment felt familiar and I just thought it was funny. But yeah, you will do all of these things and you'll do it with a smile on your face. And don't you ever show signs of wear and tear that are a result of how we've treated you, because then we'll put you out with the trash because we're such a loving family. All right. So this is page 78. I thought this may have been a good quote for the generational conversation we had a couple live streams ago. It said, it used to be that people regarded their private lives as treasures, right? This was one of the quotes that made me kind of stop and think for a few days after, that people used to kind of keep their private lives private. And now there's almost an expectation that you will share everything. Like, I feel like I'm part of the generation that kind of started the social media craze. And now I feel like I step back from it and I'm like, wow, people tell everybody everything, like everything. They tell them everything now. Like, it's shocking to me. Like, it started simply with, you know, we never realized that it would go so far from food, because the issue used to be, oh, people are sharing what they're eating every day. And people used to complain about that. I wish that's all we were at now. People just sharing what they eat. That would be great. But people tell every little detail. They show every little detail. It's like wide open. So this quote made me think of that. It used to be that people regarded their private lives as treasures. So in the context of the corporate cult, the more private you are, the less trusted you are. So you're not seen as open. You're not seen as a team member, even though you've done nothing but be like a team player. If you're not telling them all of your business, then you're seen as like guarded. You know what I mean? which is why I told y'all, I think a couple live streams ago, I'm just going to go get me a stock photo of a guy that looks pretty cute, stock photo of a child, and just keep them in my phone. And when they start up with all those questions, I'm like, oh yeah, this is my boyfriend. We've been dating for like 3 years. I don't know if we'll get married or not, but maybe, who knows? I don't know. Oh wait, then I shouldn't have the kid photo, because then they'll be like, oh, she had a baby without being married. So if I really want like a really good job, I have to go buy myself a fake ring. It's like a fake wedding ring. Now I can get the stock photo of the guy and the baby. Then I'll be able to secure my high level corporate position, because then now I'm fully appropriate for the role. You know, married woman with a family, that's appropriate. You know, so anyway, because if you just tell them, oh, I really don't talk about my dating life at work, you're seen as like weird. All right, this is page 79. Organizations can't give to people without first taking. So this made me think about, we keep talking about proposals. We talked about it in the OK Boomer stream, and we talked about it in one of the corporate cult streams, where I basically say that if a company wants you to stay with them, that they really honestly need to propose to you. And the reason is because it's their idea. The whole business, the organization, the company is their idea. They're reaching out to you because they need your help. Without your help or someone like you, the organization will not push forward, right? It can't grow. All you need is a job. All you need is money, really. Be real. All you really need is the money. There's only a few jobs out there that the job itself is payment in and of itself. Only a few jobs like that. For the most part, all you need is the money. So considering that they can go get money from anybody, you need to make it very convincing for them to come get money from you, and to keep wanting to get money from you, because in them doing that, they help your company grow and they help you serve your customers. You see, allowing me to be myself. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you for the super chat. The more people who are willing to come get money from you is the more people that can make your company grow. And then if you're lucky enough to actually get talented people in there, you know what I mean? Like there's no stopping your organization when you have smart people, dedicated people, you know, who you are good to and they are good to you. But these companies, like this quote says, it's almost like they can't give without taking something from you first. And from the very beginning, the relationship is imbalanced, and it typically remains imbalanced for the duration of your time there. So I felt good reading this, because I was like, yes, somebody's on my side. You know, regarding organizations realizing who they are, you're more powerful, you have more resources, you're the one with this vision, this plan, and this goal. So why don't you try to attract people to you and get them to stay with you by virtue of treating them better than anyone else can treat them? What does that sound like? That actually sounds like marriage. How do you start a marriage? By proposing. What's the point of marriage? What's one of the points of marriage? To prevent that person from getting the marital benefits from anyone else. You want them to get marital benefits from you, right? So then do a proper proposal, and you might get what you're looking for. So I stand by my assertion. All right, this one kind of stung. This is on page 84. This says, only demoralized, emotionally weak people will stay in that kind of cult where they are controlled by the leader. Eventually, the organization will die for lack of talent and diversity of input. All right. So we've already covered that in depth regarding diversity. So obviously race, gender, orientation, all of that, obviously all of those things. But diversity is also different ideas, different perspectives. You might have a different opinion because you grew up in a different state. So let's say your company is talking about expanding to a different state and you grew up there. You might have a whole different opinion on that project. Not that you would have any control over it happening or not. It's not about that. It's more about insight. Hey, I grew up in that state. You may not want to put it there because blank, 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 blank. Oh, wow, really? Let us look into that. They look into that and discover that you were right. So that's what is meant by diversity of input and perspectives. You know what I mean? Everyone grew up different. Everyone has a different life experience. You need to hear from as many different people as you can in order to be the strongest that you can be, because otherwise you'll have blind spots. So that's my thought on that. I pulled this part though for this top line. Demoralized, emotionally weak people will stay in that kind of cult. So if you're still in a cult, look within and ask, like, what is taking place in my life that makes this okay for me? That I would take this kind of abuse and this kind of treatment, and I know it's wrong and I stay anyway. Why can't I go? Like, why can't I break free from this? Okay. Some of you will find your way to a cult and then you find your way out and then you feel bad afterward. So hopefully this video has made you feel better about leaving those types of situations, because now you see that maybe you got pulled in because you were demoralized and weak at the time. And then as you got your confidence back and your self-respect back, you left a bad situation. So congratulations and good on you. Don't feel bad about that. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like, even if you had like maybe friendships that broke up in the workplace, when you quit, they stayed. You're probably the stronger of the two or three or whatever. You're probably the strongest one out of that whole group, because you had enough courage and dignity and self-respect to say, I don't deserve to be treated this way. I deserve to be treated better because I treat people better. So there's that, my thoughts on that. Okay, so this is going to be the last one, and then we will go, we'll take a break, a commercial break, and then we will actually go into after show. And the music did not play the first time. I'm so bummed, but I'll make sure that it's on this time so you guys can hear it. So Ronald, we use your song again. The people love it. Here we go. There is a dangerous blurring of the line between work and family. This is a conflict the family eventually will lose because it doesn't have the resources the corporation owns. And that is page 86. So I thought that was a very unique way of looking at the problem. The family loses because it doesn't have the resources of the corporation. So one way you could look at this is, my husband or wife left me because the new boyfriend or girlfriend is rich. Do you see what I mean? So that's essentially what this quote is saying. Who can compete with multimillionaires? You see what I mean? And people in power and people who can elevate your life and put you on airplanes and fly you all over the country and give you a corporate card and a corporate car and, send you to fancy dinners and put you up in nice hotels, and that's just your wife or that's just your husband back home, in your humble 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, that you worked really hard for, but I'm going to put you up in a 5-star hotel for a month because I need you to do this thing for me. And eventually the lure of that rich boyfriend, rich girlfriend, that sugar daddy, sugar mama type situation, the lure of that pulls people away from their family. So this may answer a question for you, for a lot of people, like, why did my family break up or split apart? This is what happened. Your mom or dad was pulled away by the lure of their rich boyfriend or rich girlfriend, which was their job, which was the corporation. So, we covered a lot. We covered a lot today. Actually, I'm going to, let me switch here really quick. Hey, everybody. How's it going? I just need to make a quick edit on my slideshow. Then we're going to go to commercial break and then we'll go into after show. How are y'all doing? Hopefully everyone's doing very well. Bear with me while I get set up over here on my side. I'm getting ready to go through your comments and see what you guys' thoughts were on this stream. We're about halfway through our book at this point. About halfway through. Where is that thing? Don't you hate it when you make yourself a system that's supposed to help you, but it ends up actually making it worse. I was trying to organize all these things. Come on. Where did you put them? Ugh. And I was going to do it during the commercial break, but then I need the deck to actually like fix it. It's complicated. Y'all just bear with me. Oh, for the love. Do I have to just go download it again? Oh, for the love of God. Just unprepared. All right. Then let's go about this a different way then, since it wants to be difficult. All right. So we are getting ready to go actually into after show mode. So I'm just going to put this here. I'm going to get my music queued up. Give me one moment. And yeah, let's do it like that. Need a sound technician. I need that. You know, you watch a lot of YouTube channels. They've got like someone else sitting off in the corner, like doing a bunch of background stuff. That's what I need. I don't know what they're called, but that is what I need. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this happen. Where'd it go? Here we go. All right, guys, we're getting ready to take a quick commercial break, and I will be back in about 5 minutes. All right, so sit tight. Mm-mm. All right, everybody, let us join in to our after show. Let me get my act together over here. Boom. Let's see. Why is it not booming? Boom. There we go. Okay. Hey, everybody. Thanks for waiting through our commercial break. Appreciate it. That music is by Ronald Griffin. He is in the chat tonight. And the correct link to that song is actually in the description box. Last live stream, when it first started, it was the wrong link, but it is the correct link now. Please go check him out. Show his channel some love. So let's get into it. So at the start of the show, I said, I'm going to mention what I'm going to do with my Patreon now. So now I know. I didn't know before. Now I know. I've decided that every video, for the most part, that YouTube demonetizes, I've decided that I'm going to move it to my Patreon. And here's why. With the exception of a few just have to stay. They're just going to stay, period. But here's why. YouTube has made a lot of changes recently that have really deeply impacted their creators. And the biggest issue is this. It's not so much that they have quote unquote rules. It's that the rules are arbitrary, meaning they seem to be applied sometimes. They seem to not be applied other times. A video will get demonetized and I'll be like, wow, what did I say? Then I'll stumble across another video that's similar, saying the same things, if not worse, and they're fully monetized. And the thing about it is we're not able to appeal the decision really. You kind of can, but it's a long drawn out process, whatever. And YouTube takes about a 55 to 60% cut of all of our earnings. So, you know, it's kind of like you already get the majority of the money. You clearly have favorites that the algorithm like favors or whatever. And so it's almost like my position on it is I'm not going to give you free content because your platform is supported by people like me. Yes, the other big companies have started to kind of move in and swoop in and, you know, take up their little platform and position on YouTube or whatever. But I think people still come here for people like me, just regular, normal people who are creators. So you already take the majority of our money and then you arbitrarily demonetize videos and we can't appeal it. We have no power to fight back. And what's interesting is sometimes you'll check, it will have gotten demonetized. You check the next day, it's monetized again. So you're also playing games with people. So those are going to be the reasons that you'll start to see videos disappear, or a video you know was there and it's no longer there. It's probably been moved to my Patreon. Now, there's none there yet. This is a process I actually started last night. And there's only about 8 out of the 144 videos that I have. So it's not like I've been hit as hard as other people, but it still really irritates me because one of the videos they demonetized was a video about book recommendations. So I don't even want to say the title because I think it's the title that's getting me demonetized, but it's narcissistic blank recovery, but with book recommendations. You demonetized a video that had book recommendations in it. The whole video was nothing but me recommending books. So I have like 8 books in it. And then like, I'll tell you the title. I read like a good quote from it, so you'll be interested in it. And then I move on to the next one. That's what that whole video is about. It's been up for years, was fine. And then as of like last night, it just got demonetized overnight for no reason. And I just don't work like that. I just don't conduct business that way. I just don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. And I'm not going to reward them with free content. So my protest to them doing this is like, okay, you're going to demonetize that video. It'll no longer live on your platform. So they'll start living on Patreon. So the benefit that I'll add, because a lot of them, most of them, you've already seen them. If you guys have been with me for a while, you've already seen them. So it's not like they're videos you've never seen before, but I'll be editing them, especially the older videos that have like sound issues, just really poor quality, at least by my standards. When I take them off YouTube, they'll be edited and put on Patreon. So at the very least, even though it's a video you may have seen already, it's of higher quality. So hopefully it's easier to listen to. So I just wanted to let you guys know that would be happening. You're not going crazy. If you start to see some of my videos disappear, I took them down and moved them over to Patreon because I'm just not going to reward YouTube with free content. Like, I think tonight's show was pretty tame. I didn't cuss. I don't think I said anything bad. I think I kept it pretty high level. So it'll be interesting to see if this one gets demonetized when I stop streaming. It probably will. And I find that incredibly annoying because there are other channels. It's not so much the other channels thing, because I hate when people do that. Oh, when I do this, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to blah, 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 I hate when people do that. I can't stand it. So I try not to do it, but I do end up doing it sometimes. It's not even about the other channels. It's about the fact that we can't appeal it. We can't do anything. And then we're under threat. Like, if we just take it down and re-upload it, we're under threat to get our whole channel shut down. So maybe what if I thought, ooh, it's because I talked about this. So let me take it down, edit that out, and put it back up. Then you're under the risk of getting your whole channel shut down for doing that. Because I guess they consider it like duping the algorithm or trying to cheat the algorithm, whatever. But that's where I am with it now. You know what I mean? Like, we work so hard, you guys. If you only knew how much actually goes into this, it's a lot. You put a lot into it. And I feel like an easy way to remedy what they're trying to remedy is, if you feel like our content is too risque, then just put a disclaimer on it like you do everything else. Say, the following content has been identified as being suitable for audiences 18 years old and older. Click here if you agree to view this content. Otherwise, please click off of this video. Very simple fixes. People are not babies. You know what I mean? And someone else brought up a good comment, which was, there are some companies who would want to advertise on certain content that might be considered like controversial. Do you see what I mean? I can't think of a good example right now, but there are some companies who certain topics would be perfect to advertise their video on or advertise their product on. Do you see what I mean? So you're chopping off our head and you're chopping off the advertiser's head arbitrarily. We should be able as creators to pull up a list and be like, okay, nope, it has none of that, 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 none of that. I should be good. What's really happening is, like, we make videos and we just kind of cross our fingers like, well, let's hope this one goes through. Like, so, and it's all done by a computer. It's an algorithm we're wrestling with, because when you go to attempt to challenge it, you can request a human review. And that's literally what it says. It says, request a human review. Okay. So the algorithm knocks it down. The algorithm confirms it. And then if you want something to happen beyond the confirmation, you actually have to request a human, living, breathing being review it. And that human, how do I say this and be politically correct? That human may not have the context that's appropriate to understand that what you just said is not a bad thing. Like typically these humans that are reviewing it are sitting in rooms full of 100 other humans with headsets on, keyboards and computers, listening to your video out of the context of the whole scope of your channel and just listening for certain words, not even in the context of the sentence, just listening for certain trigger words. And as soon as they hear them, they just strike them down. So freedom of speech is under attack. I understand how we got here because a lot of people really did abuse it. And a lot of people have actually created cult followings and really, really sick, unwell human beings as a result of the content that they were allowed to put out. But what needs to not happen is this broad stroke that knocks off people who really aren't doing anything wrong. You see what I mean? We're adults. That's the whole thing about it. We're having adult conversation. This is an adult platform. I can't even say the word that means little people. You know, people that are in your family that came from like you and your husband or you and your wife or whomever that you either birthed or adopted that are under a certain age. We can't even really use the K word or the C word anymore. Because as soon as they hear the K word or the C word, they automatically assume your content is directed towards tiny persons and you're striked. Like it's insane. So with that said, YouTube is probably in the process of destroying their own platform because you got people like me pulling video and saying, I'm not doing this. We're not playing these games with each other. So that said, long story short, you'll start to see some of my videos disappear, but they're not going away forever. They are going over to Patreon and they'll be edited and of higher quality. And that'll just be the little game we play until we decide how we're going to fix this. So anyway, super chat from Ronald. It says they are dragging us down a rabbit hole. Thing is, they started dragging about 50, 60 years ago. It's in full effect now. Right. So that's my big announcement. Now, on to the more important things, which are your comments. Okay, so as you guys know, I stated last time, I'm just making the assumption it's okay to display them. If you ever don't want your comment displayed, either delete it after you post it, or just post it in the first part of the show, like the first hour, because I can't read it. Like I literally can't even get to it to see it. So just know that after about an hour, your comments become eligible to be seen and read. Okay. So I'm going to go start going down your comments and then we'll wrap this thing up. So this comment says, we get so many emails about our personal health, probably 1 or 2 a day. And it's right. It's like, thank you so much for your concern, but this is my body. I appreciate your concern. I really do. But this is actually my body. The way you can actually support my health is by giving me really great health insurance. And you could pay me a little more. That would be helpful. And let me go home sometimes when I'm just burnt out and tired. And don't force me to sit in a room with people who have the flu because they're so afraid to go home because of how they'll be viewed. How about we can do those things to support our health? You know how else these companies could support our health? By demanding people like wash their hands before they go into like the company cafeteria, any type of buffet situation. Hell, just demanding they wash their hands when they enter the building. So as soon as you walk in the building, wash your hands. You could have this big station with those big like stainless steel restaurant style deep kitchen sinks. 10 of them in a row. As you walk in the building, please wash your hands. Thank you so much. Thank you. But yeah, there's a million other ways to support our health. You don't have to send me these little emails that all say the same thing. I guarantee you, I know what one of your emails says. I guarantee one of them says, ways that you can improve your overall health. No. Ways you can stay healthy in the winter. Number 1, drink plenty of water. Did you know that winter air dries out blah, 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 your sign of blah, 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 blah. Staying hydrated is a great way to keep from getting sick. Like I can just spit one out. That's how many times we've heard it. Let's see. Hmm. Right. I totally agree. It says, I'm a freelancer and most people are checked out mentally on Fridays, anyways. So we should all just count Friday as part of the weekend. No real work gets done on a Friday. Absolutely. That is the absolute truth. And everyone knows it. Like everybody knows that. Everybody. Like there's so many people who can say, let me rephrase it. Let me put it to you like this. If you can get done in 3 hours at home, what normally takes you a week to do at work, basically you waste what is that? 37 hours a week. If you can do your work in 3 hours at home with pure focus, but it would take you all week to do that same work at work, your job is a waste of time and it's wasting your life. Let's see. Y'all are out here blocking your boss when you go on vacation. That is so funny. I feel like if I was a boss, my people's number one complaint about me would be that they never see me. They would be like, PTE is your boss, right? And they'd be like, yeah, I think so. They'd be like, what do you mean you think so? Well, I literally never see the woman. I don't ever see her. I met her the day that she hired me. She trained me. She was really nice to me. She gave me her number and email and told me to reach out if I ever needed anything. And I haven't needed anything. She provided pretty much everything I needed. Even things I didn't realize I needed, she gave to me. So I haven't had to reach out. And they're like, so she hasn't called to do like a one-on-one or anything? And they're like, no, I think she hates me. And if you have a wise friend, your wise friend would say, no, she loves you. She loves you. Like, I'm not going to harass my employees. Should I ever find myself with employees? I promise you, they're rarely, I'll be running from them. It's probably what will end up happening. Like, I'll be like ducking them, like, oh God, here they come. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of, only partially. But I base that off of like the way my students used to act. Oh, I used to have to hide from them. Oh my God, I had to hide. I had to hide from them. So, but I'll tell you this much, even if I am hiding from my employees, they are going to be so well taken care of that they don't need to find me. What do you need? Your paychecks are on time. Your health insurance is straight. You got your little bonus together. Awesome. I don't bother you. You can work wherever you want. My only requirement is that you get done on time what we need to get done. That's it. This is what I need from you. This is when I need it. Other than that, I don't want to see your face, your beautiful or handsome face. I don't want to see it. Goodbye. I'm like the bird mom that kicks her babies out of the nest once they know how to fly. But I'm always watching to make sure they're okay. But you can go find your own nest. Let's see here. Just going through your comments. Absolutely. It says, so we have to divulge our identities to be used against us in the future to be seen as trustworthy. Absolutely. And you know what's funny about this comment? So I've been meaning to do really a series, but I can't think of more than a couple of people. So I feel like it would be a short series. But I really wanted to go into what I call my major narcs. So these would be the narcissists in my life that really like shaped me and like shaped how I see the world, and also like where a lot of this content comes from. It doesn't come from nowhere. Like I've had major run-ins, and when I thought through it, I don't think I ever really get into them. Like I've given y'all examples, but I've never really gone into like the long-term deep examples. But one of the major narcs, the first one in the series, would be my college ex. Oh, he shaped my outlook in such a way that it almost makes me grateful, because he opened my eyes to narcissists. I did not realize they existed before him. Like I knew people who weren't nice existed. You know what I mean? or bullies, jerks, mean people, criminals. Like I knew those people existed. Never had a thought towards narcissism. He taught me about narcissism by virtue of his actions. And this is one of the things he used to say all the time. And it always struck me as so odd. I was like, why? We were 18 and 19 at the time. So relatively young. I'm like, why is this young guy so guarded? But he used to always say, I don't tell people anything because then they just use it against you in the future. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why would you even think that way? Well, it turns out he thought that way. And I'm not saying this about you, this was him. But I think he thought that way because that's what he used to do. He used to absorb little details here and there and use them later against me. So, you know what I mean? Like he was so guarded about it because that's who he was as a person. Anyway, I'm not saying that that's you in your comment. It's just made me think of that story. But yes, narcissists, they need those little details about your identity so they can use them against you in the future. Like even like I've told you all before, the most mundane things you wouldn't even think, excuse me, would be like something to like use against somebody at a later date. Like I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. I really can't, but just think mundane. Like I'll make up an example. So this is a made up example. You might say something in passing, like, yeah, just trying to, build my finances up. I really want to get into like investing and, really start planning for the future. You might say something like that just in passing over lunch or over a coffee break, happy hour. Fast forward like 2 months, the narcissist creeps up on you from behind and sees you like shopping for, I don't know, shoes or something, which is okay. Like maybe at your job, it's okay to surf the internet and shop. And they say to you, oh, are you getting ready to buy those? And you're like, oh yeah, I think so. I really love them. And they're like, oh, well, I thought you were like investing. I thought you were trying to save your money. Like, and of course people say that to each other, like joking, like, now girl, now, you're not gonna be able to save any money that way. But the narcissist like uses it. I can't explain it. Those of you who've been through it know exactly what I'm talking about. It's almost like they're monitoring you. They're monitoring you. Like, I can't explain it. So I'm just going to stop. Thank you for your comment. Let's see. It says HG Tutor refers to supply as appliances. Absolutely. I call them strap-on supply, basically strap-on battery packs, like rechargeable battery packs. Let's see. Okay, thank you for letting us know. It says my dog is now gender neutral, so you all know. Thank you so much. Thank you for informing us. Let's see. Exactly. It's like some people in this life are on call. The rest of us are not. So chill, like relax. Okay. It's a desk job. And you might be getting paid a lot of money for that desk job, but it's a desk job nonetheless. Like stop. You're not a neurosurgeon. You're not a back or spine surgeon. You know what I'm saying? Like stop. Like, but I think, sorry, that's not what I meant to do. I think that people, it feeds their ego to believe that they're so important. Like this desk job is so important that I have to be on call for it. When really the truth of the matter is, a lot of times they're only on call because they're so disorganized during the day. So there's always emergencies because they never took the time to actually organize their work and plan it, So yes, thank you for your comment. And actually, I'll go ahead and pop that one up because that is a good one. It says, yep, boundaries are viewed as hateful to those who want to violate them. Exactly. I went searching for Ali the other day after we were talking about him. And I was watching a couple of his videos and he was actually reading an article written by like a mother. She's a mother and a grandmother who was like bashing what she was calling like the narcissism cult. And she was like, they're teaching these people to have boundaries against us, their very family. They're teaching these people to go no contact with their family, their flesh and blood. How could they teach people to just stop talking to their family? And, and then the example he gave in the article, A woman told her mom she could only come over on a certain day and a certain time. And the mother was infuriated by this. Like, how could you limit my visits to a certain day and a certain time kind of situation? And I was going to do the article, but I was like, nah, I'm not going to piggyback Ollie's article. But I just thought it was interesting that now there's outrage. First of all, we're making progress. That's number one. Number two, they know that we're on to them is number two. And number three, they're outraged at the boundaries, outraged. So let that be a sign to you. If someone ever gets outraged at your boundaries, know that you're probably dealing with a certified narcissist, certified. Because it makes no sense. Like, you are the guardian and the gatekeeper of yourself. You have a right to talk about, you have a say-so in what happens to you. You do. You are your gatekeeper. You have a right to design that. Does that make sense? And my whole point has always been design it in a way that does not harm others. So you can't design it in a way that now infringes on somebody else. Be realistic, be real. Like, you design boundaries that are reasonable for you and reasonable for others. Not so much for others. What I mean is your boundary is not now infringing on someone else. There's nothing wrong with that. You have a right to do that. You belong to you. So you should have a rule set for you. You see what I mean? And no, the world doesn't have to bend for your particular rule set, because as I've said before, we have our own personal rule set, and then there's like a group rule set that's neutral, or it's supposed to be neutral. That's how we're able to do things like drive. That's how we're able to do things like pay for things and goods and services, because there's a set of rules that we've all agreed upon. But you have a right to boundaries. So when people get mad about that, know that what they're basically saying is a portion of you belongs to me and you're denying me what rightfully belongs to me. And I want it. I want what's due to me. You owe it to me. All right. Let's see. It says, I'm so with you on privacy is treasure. The truth is that part of us is always hidden. So the show everything is a kind of superficial pretend fakery. Exactly. There's always that little piece that we keep to ourselves. So what we're showing, generally, it can be real a lot of times, but a lot of times it's artificial because, we still keep back that little piece of ourselves. Hopefully you do. I hope you have some people might call it shame. Even if it's not shameful, like, have some type of mystery. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's see. Thank you for your comment. What about the meetings that last more than 2 hours with any resolutions at the end? What about all this time you could use to really work? Exactly. They've done studies to show how much of a waste of time meetings are. Really, truly. And it's usually just rambling, endless rambling, on and on and on, and no solutions at the end. Nothing. You have to schedule another one to try to solve it. And the problems you're trying to solve usually aren't that complicated. It's just an old system. It's just old. Like, it's time to retire this system and move into a more efficient way. You see what I mean? Let me see here. My comments jumped. Yes, it says the demand, employees, is greater than the supply, employers and corporations. They abuse people in other countries by outsourcing positions to underprivileged, and they get more work for less money. So I shared a video with y'all on my comment thread where this guy goes into great detail about this in regard to, I don't even want to say it. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'll say FB, the social media site that a lot of people are on. And he said FB hires people on this visa program, right? And they can stay in the country as long as they're working for someone on this particular visa. But should they lose their job, they have to go back to their home country immediately. So, what this creates is a situation where a lot of companies are abusing these individuals because they can, because they know if this person speaks up and stands up for themselves, that they can basically fire them and they'll have to go back to their home country immediately. So, it's happening. It's happening in that situation and others. And it's so sad. It's like, why can't we just, what is the harm in just doing it correctly and doing it the right way and doing it in a way that doesn't harm other people? What's wrong with that? Or is the issue that then you don't feel like a king or a god? Is that the issue? Or a queen or a goddess? That if you're not stepping on people, you don't feel right inside. Is that the issue? Is that what we're really working with? Again, like I said last live stream, we just need y'all to come clean, because then maybe we can make some progress. Just say, if I treat my employees well and fairly, it makes me feel like we're on the same level. And I don't want to feel like I'm on the same level with them. I want to feel higher than them. Why don't you just admit that? That's what we're looking for, is a confession. We just want a confession. All right, let's see. All right. Okay, that would be a perfect example. I won't put it up, but it says, I don't tell about my Asperger's because it can be used against me, even when I cope the best I can with the dynamic. So that would be a perfect example of something I'm talking about, mentioning in passing. So you go to lunch, you're just chit-chatting with your coworkers. Like, yeah, I got diagnosed with Asperger's in middle school, but whatever, I make it work. You say it in passing, like a throwaway comment. You think nothing of it. And then 6 months later, in like a one-on-one, your boss is like, so how are you doing with your Asperger's? And you're like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Well, I know you're struggling with Asperger's. I just wanted to know, how's that panning out, in your role? Is it working out well? Blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wow, I didn't even really tell anybody that. I just said it in passing, and literally they will hang their hat on it. So that would be a perfect example of not giving them fuel for their fire. But here's the issue. You never really know what the fuel is going to be. One can never be too sure of what the fuel is actually going to be. Again, and for me, the lesson there is, because I'm a very verbose person. I'm very, I guess you could say, chatty, but I'm not I don't dominate conversations. I won't talk your ear off, even though I've talked your ear off now for 2.5 hours. In real life, in person, it's very back and forth with me. But I think the word I'm looking for is forthcoming. And that would be an error that I've been making in my life and in the past. I'm very forthcoming because I really don't have much to hide. Does that make sense? Why would I hide things from you and be all shady and weird? I don't have that much to hide. So I speak freely because I don't feel the need to conceal anything. But the issue is, in speaking freely, I've just been throwing out nails for hats to hang on. Just woof, woof, here you go. Here's some nails for you. Here's nails for you. Just all kinds of stuff. Big stuff, medium, little, whatever. Here you go. Just tossing them out for the birds to come pick up like crumbs. And then it circles back later and I'm like, oh my God, you were paying attention to that? Wow. Sit tight for me 1 second, you guys. So yeah, so I got to learn to shut up. I have to teach myself that just because you don't have anything to hide doesn't mean that you don't have ammunition. So shut up. Stop talking. Stop being so forthcoming. Let's see. Corporations equals narc sugar mamas. Exactly. And sugar daddies. Pretty much. Who can compete with a multimillionaire boyfriend or girlfriend? Let's see. Let's see, just scrolling. All right. A lot of background noise. It's my other little kitty cat waking up from her nap, sitting on the bag that she likes to take naps on. Let's see. Yeah, I was shocked too. It says, I'm actually shocked that YouTube would demonetize any of your videos. Why? God only knows. For the longest, they were fine, you know? And then it's like, now I check every day just to see which one has been pinged today. Like, it's crazy to me. It's really crazy. And it's like, I go back and listen back and I'm like, okay, let me listen and see what I said. Because I recognize that some of my videos are highly controversial. Some of them I knew like right away. I'm like, oh, this one's going to get demonetized with no problem. But others are not. Like book recommendations. Really? Wow. That's really, really deep. We do need a new platform. There's some other ones popping up. A lot of people move to Patreon. There's one I heard called BitChute, but you know what's funny? I went over to BitChute to look at it, and it reminds me of what YouTube used to be, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Like I was like, dang, this reminds me of old YouTube, where it was just videos, like regular videos from regular people. And I'm like, wow, this is what it used to be like. Amazing. So I did check them out. I'm not quite ready to make that jump yet, but I did go look. Oh, yeah, here, someone just said it right there, BitChute. I thought Twitch was just for gamers. Are other people allowed to be on there also? Yeah, the algorithm like shoves my videos down to like the bottom of the floor. It doesn't make any sense at all. But it's cool because you know what? The one good thing about this is that I never went into it for the money. Like I always knew I would make something off of it, but getting this message out to you guys was more important to me than the money. And proof of that, which now looking back, I'm starting to regret just a little bit. But the proof of that is the first 6 months of my channel, I wasn't monetized at all. At all. So from June 2016 to December 2016, I was not monetized at all. And I say I regret it because that's when I experienced the most growth. But I didn't care because I was like, it's not about the money. Like it's about telling you guys what I need you all to understand. I needed it to get out there. It didn't matter to me. You know what I mean? But then, you know, you start to think about it and you're like, number one, you really shouldn't do anything for free, really. Like it's sweet, you know, but it's not even about that. It's more so about you work. Like this is your time. Like you put time, effort, money, resources into this. You know what I mean? You've purchased equipment, you learned editing software. Like it's not like I just wake up and make a video in 5 minutes. So I had to allow myself to understand that your work is valuable and you do deserve something for it. Sit tight again, y'all. Hold on. Come here, my little princess. Oh my goodness. Come here. So yeah, your work is valuable. So don't, you know, feel like it's not worth anything. Like, yeah, you do deserve a little something for it. But I've been smart enough to not make it my 100% bread and butter. Because if that was the case, I would be as angry as some of these other YouTubers are, who it is their 100% bread and butter. And some of them have basically been hit so hard that they're going to have to find something else to do. And it's sad. Like, that's not fair. And even if they wanted to do that, they should make it to where there's like a warning, like, hey, your channel is getting ready to like lose half of its money. Make these changes prior to this date to avoid this happening. No, people are just waking up in the morning and just seeing like all their stuff just demonetized. That's so wrong. We should go on strike. Now that would be something special. Oh, and you guys know I'd participate because you know I'm all about that kind of stuff. So can you imagine you click on YouTube and none of your creators are on there? None of them. We've all made our videos black in protest of all these different changes. Can you imagine? So it would be a sad day because I'm a heavy user of YouTube as well. Let's see. Oh, I believe that there's some high narcs up in this platform's administration. I believe it 100%. 100. And they don't want the info getting out because what's happening is it's messing things up. Because think about it like this. For every one person that learns about narcissism, sees it in their immediate life, and makes a change, be that change, leaving a relationship, moving, quitting a job, whatever, it takes away the narcissist supply. And every single time that it happens, it has an impact, even if it's only happening once a day, even though we know it's way more than once, it has an impact. And the narcs have started to go, what's going on? Like, it was working so well, and then all of a sudden it stopped working. What's going on? And then they're learning, they're watching these videos, and they're like, oh, because honestly, what I thought was going to happen. I thought when the narcissists found these videos, they would be like, oh, well, that's not me, whatever. Like, I thought they'd be very dismissive, but more often than not, y'all, they're like, yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Like, they completely own it, completely. And that's surprising to me because I thought their strategy would be like to try to pretend like it's not true, which they do sometimes. They do pretend like it's not true sometimes, but more often than not, they're like, yeah, this is pretty much exactly who I am. So they recognize themselves. And in that self-recognition, some of them are starting to hit back and fight back, as we have seen in our Advice from the Expert series. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, I hate how everything is changing because of all the psychotic weirdos who can't stop being weird online and being weird on the internet. So we have to change everything because these people can't control themselves. So instead of just getting rid of the problem children, we're going to punish everybody because we're not just going to handpick and pluck out the problem children who are making it horrible for everybody. So we'll just punish everyone as a result. Let's see. All right, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. Very, very soon. Excuse me. Uh-oh, I just saw a super chat. Where'd it go? Here we go. Hey, I'm so glad I saw yours. I think I missed one of yours last time. From Takira, Washington, it says the investing shoe things the investing shoe thing feels like a tactic. The fact that you were trying to get your finance together injured them, so they have to bring you down. Exactly. It's like, why? And thank you for the super chat. It's like, why are you trying to get your finances together? Like, are you trying to like improve your life? Well, then that would make you better than me. We can't have that. I think, is she trying to go somewhere? Is she trying to move up in the world, in life? I'm not trying to move up in life. Well, we can't have that. We have to prevent that from happening. And they do. So it's almost like you have to be an actress at work or an actor. Or I think the proper thing, is actor for both of them. I don't think we're supposed to say actress. I don't know. I can't keep up with the rules, y'all. I can't. Let's see here. I try though. I do, but it's hard. All right. You're so welcome. It says, thank you very much for a realistic topic. You're so welcome. I'm all about realism because this is really where it hurts. And so many people have refused to talk about this for so long that there have been no changes. We can't start to change things until we start talking about it. And it's funny because lately I've seen two different examples and I pulled them, but I don't have them in front of me, where the content of the article was so similar to a video I had done. My feelings were almost hurt. Like, wow, did you plagiarize me? But then I thought about it and I was like, I think I got plagiarized. That means the ideas are spreading. This is good. Now, I probably won't feel that way. If they make a lot of money off of it, we're going to have a conversation. But the themes were so similar. I'm like, I think this person might have watched my video or seen one of my videos, and maybe it inspired them to write this article that got published. But good, at least we're having the conversation. Great, awesome. You know what I mean? So I forgot what comment I just saw that made me think that. But all right, guys, we are actually going to wrap it up. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. There's tons of great comments. As you guys know, I always do go back and read them all as I do the listen through. So when I listen through on the playback. So anyway, if you go to listen to the playback, once it uploads and you don't see the live stream comments, those upload like an hour later because the video is so long. This video will take about an hour to upload. So when I hang up here, if you go to look for it on YouTube, you will not see it because it takes an hour to upload and then the comments take an hour to process, just in case you were wondering. So they will appear, but they'll appear in about 2 or 3 hours, the whole thing. So know that. And just a reminder for anyone who may have come in later, you will start to see videos come down from my YouTube channel, but they are not disappearing forever. I am moving them to Patreon. They will be edited for clarity and quality, and they'll live over there until YouTube decides to play nice with us. So wish us luck. Support your favorite creators because we are working hard and we are not being treated very nicely by the platform that we are on. And hopefully we can make some positive changes so we can keep doing this, because I honestly believe this is one of the best things that's ever happened to our society. It's one of the best and worst. Worst because it's a very great tool for indoctrinating people and turning them into horrible people, brainwashing, if you will. But it's the most amazing tool because at what point in our history have we ever been able to freely share information like this? You know what I mean? Freely share information all across the world. So it's a brilliant thing, and we want to see it continue so we can continue to bring you great content and videos like these. So support your creators, support the fight, support free speech for all, okay? With that said, I am going to put the music back on and give you guys your 5 minutes to kind of wrap up your chats, and I'll talk to you guys next time, okay? Thank you so much for everything, and yeah, I'll see you on the next live stream, okay? Bye-bye.